Jennifer
Yes. Yes.
insisted on coming home with me one night. I slept in the bedroom,
Yes.
the master bedroom, and she slept on the sofa.
That's right. The night
And I
Toby
said,
passed.
she knows I am nutsy because I get up at about 2:30 and make myself oatmeal.
Yeah.
So she
This
said,
is true.
no, she said, and I was leery, very leery of this. She said, when you get up, I will leave and go home.
Because I have to get my
Because
children.
she has to bring her two sons to school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what she did.
Yeah.
I was very leery of her leaving here in the middle
How did you
of
get
the
so
night.
lucky to have someone so nice?
Because how did I
She's-
get so
she's
lucky?
How did
to
he get so lucky?
No, how
She's
did I get so
fantastic.
lucky to get Chet and Toby? I met
You know,
them through Lunch
she
and
worked
Learn.
for Family Promise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I worked there.
Unfortunately, they couldn't get any more volunteers,
It happened.
particularly to stay over at the church by the sea,
Yeah.
overnight.
Well, we're
So
going
they
to
dropped
exchange
it.
business cards.
They had to
That
drop
would
out.
be fabulous.
This is mine,
Thank you, Bruce.
and I would love to be able to reach other people who
Fantastic.
would need this for their family.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll
Fantastic.
talk about that.
I know I
So,
left my
enough
cell phone
about,
someplace.
Enough about our antics together as friends. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother day. I want you to just get focused on you and Toby. I'm doing laundry back here and I'm going to stay
I
out of
think
your
I
way.
left my cell phone over there somewhere.
I saw it in the kitchen. If it rings, I can pick it up for
Yeah,
you.
we're not going to,
Okay?
we're going to, I even put my cell phone.
Yeah.
No, I just
On-
want to know where the
silence.
hell it is.
It's in the kitchen. I'll tell them you're not accepting calls. You're shooting a video. All right? I'll hold your calls.
No, you don't have. You don't
Mr.
have to.
Zietner,
You don't have to do that.
I'm teasing you.
Okay, so Chet, let's do this. Tell me in the very beginnings where you were born and where you grew up, and then you can tell me about how you met Toby.
It's a very interesting story. I grew up in East New York, Brooklyn, on Fulton Street. When Toby saw pictures of me when I was about 14 years old, she said, "Oh my God, you were a thug." So I said to her, "Toby, if you grew up in East New York, in that neighborhood,
You had to be.
you had to be very, very tough, or you didn't survive. You'd be dead."
Yeah.
So this is interesting too, because her father, when she approached her teens, said, "I will let you go out with anybody in the 5 boroughs of New York, except anybody who comes from East New York." Me. So I sort of became kosher because I had moved to Midwood, and I thought I was going to go to Midwood High School. But the dividing line was right in the middle of my block, East 10th Street. The next block over from Coney Island Avenue. And I wound up going to Lafayette, having to take 2 buses. Then later on, I managed to transfer to Madison High School. And then I was doing something that I was not supposed to do. Of course. I was going to the Art Students League in the daytime. So I switched over to Erasmus Hall, where incidentally Kenneth graduated from. It is no longer an academic high school. It's what they call a service school. Or going way back, it would be called an ungraded class. People who had mental problems, were retarded, wouldn't listen to orders or instructions. So, and then I transferred to Erasmus Hall, night school. And my parents, may they both rest in peace, didn't want me to become an artist, because I studied art then, as I did it in, incidentally, that and a subway ticket or coin, this will get me on the New York City subway. I'm a life member of the Art Students League of New York. You have to be voted by 2 students and a teacher. And my teacher, his name was O'Reilly, or maybe Riley. He never taught at night. I couldn't figure out why at the Art Students League. He was night blind. Ironically, I found this out from a man up in Vermont that I became friendly with, that I used to play golf with, and he said, "Oh, didn't you know that he was night blind? We had to hold him by his arm."
Let's get back to how you met your beautiful wife.
Well, this is a fantastic story. Tanya Salter wrote her autobiography, and her professor read it to the class that Toby was in at Brooklyn College. And Toby said, "Oh, this sounds like a very interesting woman. I've got to get her to join our sorority, rather." And it evolved that the class that Bob Salter was in at NYU, and he was brilliant. He got a degree in journalism, and he also got a degree from NYU in engineering. Brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. Straight A's.
And so did he introduce you to your...
No.
Okay.
Tanya called me up, I guess on a Thursday or something like that, and she said, "I've got a wonderful date for you, beautiful girl. You've got to go on this date." It was a blind date. So I said, "I got a problem there." It was for Saturday night. I said, "I got a date with a beautiful blonde." So she said, "You will break that date or make sure that Bob, her future husband, never talks to you again." He lived on my block, East 10th Street. And so I broke the date. But they didn't tell me her father was a police captain. So I didn't have a car at the time. They drove me over there. They lived on East 28th Street, Sheepshead Bay. And her father comes running down the stairs to shake hands with me. And I notice he's got, in a holster on his belt, he's got a .38.
Not the first thing you want to see on a date.
He said to me, "You're going to take good care of my daughter tonight, right?" And I said, with emphasis, I replied, "Yes, sir." Besides that, he was a top kick in the Marines. If you don't know what a top kick is, a sergeant, full stripes. They had 6 stripes.
So how did your relationship progress with Toby? How did it go from there?
Well, Toby was a camp counselor. So I wrote to her at camp. I didn't hit it off all the way, but when I saw her, I said, "That's the girl I'm going to marry."
Wow.
And so I wrote to her, and then eventually when she came up at camp, we started going out together. Her mother was fantastic. She was besides being a school secretary, she was an excellent violinist. And Toby used to go with her to various museums, dragging along her dolls. And she taught Toby to play piano. Toby played piano since she was 3.5 years old.
Wow.
Now, when Toby was born, she only weighed 2.5 pounds. Her mother had lost 2 boys. not through abortion, premature. And they were in the hospital she was born in, ironically, was Long Island College Hospital. And they were ready to throw Toby away. But there was a Canadian nurse that took care of her, and she persisted. Otherwise, she would have been gone. And she persisted and brought her along. And
It's amazing how one action
right,
can affect tens to hundreds of people over the years.
she was a very persistent nurse, and thank God Toby survived. Otherwise, without her, I doubt that Toby would have survived. She just was so determined that Toby would live, and she did.
So Chet, if you could think of one accomplishment in your life that you're just so proud of, that just means so much to you, is there one or two that we can talk about?
Yes, I can't talk about it much, even now. I was on a job with a place called Frederick House, which did audio visuals, overhead projection slides. And somebody came up with the brilliant idea to do it economically for the Navy Department. These were, all I can say about it is, these were instructional materials for missiles fired from the submarines. Even the atomic sub got involved in this. So I am proud of that. I was only 18 years old, and I was paid a big $35 a week, like a Navy guard, and no benefits. They got around benefits that way. And one night, I tripped a wire. We didn't have electronic beams. We had what is equivalent to piano wires. And I accidentally tripped the wire. And luckily, my boss, Hank Edelman, was with me. And Hank was, I don't know if he's still alive, 6'4" and built like a football fullback. And he just said to me, "Chet, stand behind me." And I'm a little on the short side, to say the least, and nobody could see me. So I said, "What's the big fuss about?" He says, "Shut up. You will see soon." And the Pinkertons were hired as security people. And there was something stupid that went on. They should have had photographs of everybody that worked there. Of course, they burst through the front door, and they had Israeli Uzis. And their orders were to kill anybody they didn't know. So I'm thinking to myself afterward, what the hell would they tell my parents? We killed your son by mistake? So they said to Hank, "Okay, where are they, or he, or she?" And their orders were to kill on sight. No doubt about it. They would have used those Uzis to shoot me down. So Hank just said, "The guy behind me is with us. You got it? Don't shoot. Don't kill him." So that's what happened. But every time I went to the Navy Yard, whatever Navy Yard it was, I was accompanied by a Marine sergeant with a .45 sidearm. And his orders were to let nobody talk to me, and I was not to talk to anybody at all, even though it was on it was a Navy Yard. His orders were to kill him right then and there with his .45.
So
we are not such gentle people.
no, never have been. Never have been. Chet, what I'd really love to do now, how many kids and grandkids do you have?
Well, we have a son and a daughter. Kenneth, our son, is the planning manager for Alachua County. That's basically Gainesville, where the University of Florida is. And he's been there for quite a number of years. Incidentally, Kenneth, people counted on their fingers. Kenneth was born 9 months and 6 days after we were married.
I got it. So
we physically loved each other, Toby and I. And our daughter is a clinical dietitian. She's in a hospital in Atlanta right now. She's the chief dietitian. And her job is to take care of very sick infants. She does infusions. She's brilliant. She is a Master of Medical Science from Emory University. That's where she met her husband to be, Pete. And he's terrific. He's been terrific. And
so what I'd like you to do is, if you could, if there's a message you would like to give to your kids first, and then we can talk about the grandkids, something that they don't know, something that you would like to say, something you've never expressed, and we can present this to them later or now, but I would love for you to be able to present a message to them that they'll be able to hold on to forever.
well, one thing I worked on when I worked for an ad agency, an industrial ad agency, was yellow cake. I designed a brochure. And this is an ironic story too. We used to love to go to Bermuda. They were very unique people, very kind. And you know the story why we went into Iraq, right?
Yeah.
Was Saddam Hussein,
Right.
who was a bastard, no doubt about it.
Right.
He deserved to be killed. But what was he after? Yellow cake. Allied Chemical produced yellow cake. They did not produce weapons of mass destruction. And this only went to 100 utilities. The brochure, economically, we couldn't just produce a few or 100. So we produced 10,000. And this was blind embossed and had a vellum insert. And a funny thing is, this is to a job broker, printing, and we couldn't deliver it. So when Toby and I talk about fate, you know what Beshet means in Jewish? Meant to be. And this is all meant to be. I'm convinced of it. It's all written down someplace.
Absolutely. So if your son was sitting where I'm sitting right now, talk to him. Talk to him. Tell him.
Well, politically, he's pretty liberal.
No, make believe I'm your son. I'm
Okay.
sitting right here. Talk to me.
I'm just confirming something that we had no business going into Iraq. Because
Make believe I'm your son.
okay.
If you were to leave
Ken.
a personal, loving message, it wouldn't be about Iraq. It would be about something much more personal. A loving message, a kind message. Forget about Iraq, forget about the world. Make believe I'm your son.
When Ken was born, we did not have throwaway bottles. I fed him in the middle of the night. because Kobe had to get up and go to school. She was a kindergarten teacher for 30 years. So I'll say, I'll get up and take care of him. And Ken has a terrific appetite, no doubt about it. Because when he was hungry, when he was an infant, he screamed bloody murder. And where we lived in Brooklyn, this lady came over, a friend of ours, and she said, "Is everything okay?" I said, "Yeah, that's just Kenneth. He's hungry. And I'm getting the bottle ready for him." So there was a courtyard in the middle. And they sort of lived diagonally across from us. And she said, oh, okay. This was in Flatbush, Brooklyn. And once I gave him the bottle, he was happy.
And I know you're a very loving family. Is there anything you've never expressed to your son that you would like to express now?
Well, I don't know if I ever put it into words, but I do love him a lot. And he's done a lot for us. And on that score, Pete, our son-in-law, has done an equal amount. Because unfortunately, his parents divorced. I don't know if he wants me to talk about this. And who did his mother marry? A divorce lawyer. And they were together for many, many years. In fact, Pete considered his adoptive father as his father. And as I don't know if people know this in general, but the Turks took in the Jews after Spain threw them out.
Yes.
And I know Pete wants the best for us.
Is there anything else you'd like to say to your son? If he was sitting here, is there any more unexpressed thoughts or feelings that you'd like to express to your son?
Yes. My doctor, Dr. Boss, Daniel Boss, incidentally, we have a grandchild named Daniel. In fact, he has my thumbs. When I was playing football in the street, which my mother tried to teach me piano and gave up because I'd rather play ball in the street. So I caught the ball, the football, the wrong way, and I thought I broke my thumb. So my father, when he rested, may he rest in peace, took me to a local doctor on Ocean Avenue, and he had his own x-ray equipment, and he developed his own x-rays. And he came rushing out of the dark room, and he said, "Let me see your other thumb." I said, What? What's wrong?" He says, "Don't you realize that the first joints of your thumbs don't bend?" Toby later on found out in her shopping, she loved to shop, that I am one of 3 million Eastern European Jews. And my grandparents came from Lithuania, as did the rabbi's grandparents. Where this genetic defect shows up. And one of our grandsons has it. Because when each child was born, Toby would check their thumbs. And ironically, it's Daniel, who's a terrific salesman, has my thumbs.
So let's get to your daughter, then we'll go back to your grandkids. Is there a message, an unexpressed message, that you would like to give to your daughter that perhaps you never shared with her, that you want her to know forever and ever?
I know that that Kenneth was the firstborn, but there's no way that we don't. I still think of Toby as alive. I can't help it.
She is. She's here with us, just in a different form and shape.
I'm sure. Toby was the most selfless person I ever met. When her doctor wanted to talk to Susie, and I had a half an hour conversation with her on the phone, Dr. Sharifa, Roxana Sharifa. Toby loved her. She told me the day she died, and she died about 6:30 in the evening, Toby, and I took her to Advanced Diagnostics on University Boulevard.
Did you know that she was so ill, or did something happen?
No. And she never told me. But I know she used to throw up her meals a lot. And she blamed it on defective dentures, tickling the upper part of her mouth. But it wasn't that.
What was her condition?
Because Dr. Sharifa on the phone told me, well, you know, Toby had a melanoma in her eye about almost 6 years ago. She was treated at Bascom Palmer in Miami. And I used to drive her down there for treatment. The treatment she received, I don't know the technical term for it, was something they use to treat prostate cancer. And it was radiation seeds in a cap. And they, of course, under anesthesia, they sewed this into her eye. And the doctor who prepared the seeds said to me, when you go to visit her, sit across the room. And they had developed something new. She had to wear sunglasses that were leaded. And all the hospital personnel in Bascom Palmer, if they were of childbearing age, had to wear these long gowns with lead in them to protect themselves from the radiation. And we thought the melanoma was dead, was taken care of. Well, from what Dr. Sharifa told me, and this is for Susie to understand, the picture showed that was a huge mass in the middle of Toby's chest. And she doesn't know whether it was cancer, whether the melanoma had come back to life and metastasized. She just didn't know. And of course, we didn't want an autopsy to be performed. It's interesting. We pre-bought and paid for 2 crypts at Star of David, and we happened to be on the 6th level. So one of the workers made a crack. He said, "Well, she's nearer to God because she's so high up."
What happened in the last half hour, an hour?
What happened was I took her early in the morning to Advanced Diagnostics to have this CAT scan done, with and without iodine. So I thought the iodine had something to do with her non-ability to breathe. And when we left the Lunch and Learn class with Brett, she collapsed on the sidewalk. I could see her as she's walking along. She tried to hold on to the picket fence there on the walk to the car, and she just fell. So when I got over to the car, and I don't move that fast anymore, I said to her, I'm taking you to ER because you have to find out what your condition is. Usually she would say, oh no, you're not. But this time, I was surprised. She said, okay. So I knew right then and there it was something radically wrong, because she would never agree to that. For Toby, everybody else was important. She was not important. As I said, she was the most selfless person around. She never had a word of criticism for anybody. She didn't think that was right. Her father was not a religious man. He was a military man. Unfortunately, cigarette smoking killed him. And the theory is now about the melanoma in her eye, ambient cigarette smoke could have caused it. Another reason to stop. When I saw what happened to him, he was a man who used to give commands, right? He could only talk in numbers. He had practically, I don't know, was it near stroke or what? But the cigarette smoking definitely was a big factor in his death. He died at 68 years old.
So Chet, if there was a message you could leave for your daughter, you only had 2 kids, and make believe I'm your daughter. Talk to me as if I'm your daughter. What would you say to her at this time in your life?
Well, one thing, I'm very proud of what she's doing, because she takes care of, as I said, of very sick infants. And she does infusions. Susie's, that's what we call her. Susie. Suzanne. But we always call her Susie. Because our son said,
Talk to her as if she's right here.
When he knew that Toby was pregnant with Susie, he said, I want a Susie.
So what would you say to her if she was sitting right here, you are at this age, and is there a message that you would like to leave to her?
I would just like to tell her that Dr. Sharifa, I think, really loves Toby and took very good care of her. It's unfortunate, but I really think that the melanoma came back and it metastasized and wound up as this huge mass in her chest. That's why she was throwing up. Not that her dentures were tickling her.
Of course.
She had something radically wrong with her, and she wouldn't admit it. When Susie wanted to talk to Dr. Sharifa, Toby's response was, oh no, I've got to take care of my husband. He's a very sick man. I can't believe it. I survived. I'm a 14-year survivor of prostate cancer. And I was diagnosed with advanced aggressive prostate cancer. And I attributed my survival to Dr. R. Neil Bourne, my urologist, and Dr. Harmon, my radiation oncologist. They did burn me, but thanks to Dr. Eric Weiss down at Cleveland Clinic, he knew exactly what to do. He gave me argon laser, which cauterized the bleeding and stopped it. So Susie has a lot to be proud of, that she graduated from Cornell and Emery, and is doing the work that, what better can you do?
Chet, you've lived a full and rich life. Are there any messages to your family, some of them lessons that you've learned along the way?
I'll tell you in general, be thankful for what you have. I always said, you can be sick, but the next guy is worse. So thank God for what you have. I could see this when I was in the pavilion. There were people of all ages who had strokes. And the people there, the therapists were wonderful. And I'm sure they're not paid that well.
Chet, let me just ask one last question. You have grandkids.
Right.
Is there a message about life that you would like to leave to your grandkids so that when they see this, they'll see the Chet that they love for years and years to come?
Well, I have to thank also people like Jennifer. She's been wonderful. And I'm really very, very sorry that we don't have Family Promise anymore.
But is there a message you'd like to leave to your grandkids that they could remember you by?
Just that I'm very, very proud of all of them. Like Michael wanted to do what I did in New York as an artist, but you have to be very aggressive. And the work he wanted to do, there was no steady jobs for this. It was like being on a freelance basis. And you have to go out and get the work. But he became an electrician. He got his journeyman's card. And I know very well what that means. It means he can work anywhere in the United States at a good rate. And I'm proud of him. He's, Michael is has gone back to school to get his degree as an electrician. I also want to thank the Fearmans. They've been wonderful to us. They live diagonally across the street in Pinecrest. And I really appreciate going to dinner because Phyllis is a great cook. Toby used to joke. She knew she wasn't a great cook. She said, but she was a great knitter and needle pointer. In fact, we have the pictures on the wall here that she did. She'd say, if you want me to knit the chicken a sweater, that I can do very well.
All right, Chet, this was wonderful.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for sharing yourself and your life with your family. I know they're going to appreciate this and cherish this and value this for a long time to come.
Thank you very much, Bruce.
Okay.